As Anna,
You're good. Sorry.
yeah, I have to say, got it.
Got it.
So it has kind of two starts to this book, and this book, of, as you can probably tell, is really close to my heart. But the first start was I had just had some tests done. I was really tired, but Anna Lee and I had decided to go to this art museum, a American Visionary Art Museum in Baltimore, because there were some artists that we really wanted to see, and I'm going to show you some of those a little bit later on. And so Anna Lee drove us in a blinding rainstorm all the way down there, and we had a really good time, and it was just kind of a bonding experience, going through this just kind of experimental art museum where everybody there is self-taught. And so I think it was kind of a turning point and opened up some doors to be able to talk about art more. And then the second start to the book was I was teaching a creative writing workshop, and I was teaching writing about art, ekphrastic poetry, where you're responding to some form of art. It can be painting or music or movies or whatever. And just kind of on a whim, I showed them Anna Lee's webpage, and they just loved it. They were just amazed by it. And several of the students started writing about her paintings. And so I thought, well, gee, I should do that too. So I ended up writing about 18 poems about her paintings. And then I also had that series started from the American Visionary Art Museum, along with some poems based on Karen Elias's work. And I was here last year doing a response, doing a talk on my collaboration with Karen Elias and her photography. So she has a few things in there too. But I wanted to just show you this painting, by the way, is in my living room. And I just love it. And one of the reasons I love it so much and love Anna Lee's work in particular is, how could any poet not love paintings that have words in them? So she, it's kind of like a puzzle piece. You just keep finding more and more layers. So you can see it says this way, don't go here. And then the change in perspective keeps switching up. So you think you're in a library at first, and then all of a sudden it's on top of a building. And then there's another smaller chair down here. So I was going to stop and let Anna Lee talk a little bit about her process, or this painting in particular, whatever you want to add.
Yeah, sure. So with my work a lot, I want the viewer to not know where they are. So in this painting in particular, I want the viewer to be in a place where they don't recognize. And I put the words and phrases in there in order to instruct the viewer where to look. So you can see, like on the chessboard, I have something called this way, and then I have some different little phrases in there. But this piece is really about like the mind a lot, and thinking, and the different choices that we make. So you can see, like, I have a chessboard there. I really like the concept of chess, because every time you play chess, it's a different game. And so I have the chessboard and the chair kind of like facing this way, but then I also have a chessboard and a chair facing the other direction. So it's kind of like, where are you? Are you in this big chair? Is there somebody else? Is there maybe you as well in the little chair? So it kind of, it's very thought-provoking. And I have to ask my boyfriend to turn off his Zoom, because I can hear his. I'll be right back.
And then I was kind of, wondering, this prompted me to think, okay, is this lavender kind of splatter, is that a mistake or is that intentional? And so this particular poem, I think, was a pantoum. And it, a lot of times in the poems, what I do, I'll show you on the next screen here, some close-ups. But a lot of times what I do is I take things from her artist statements, and then I put them in italics throughout the poems. So you get this kind of repetition that's natural to that form, but then it also weaves in what she's saying about the artwork. Now, this one's a little more representational than some of her other pieces that are quite abstract. So it really helped me to have these artist statements. And then it opened up all this conversation because, you know, I would write a draft and then I'd send it to her and she'd say, oh yeah, that's what I was, you know, getting at. Or, well, you might also want to consider this. So that was really, that was a lot of fun to kind of go back and forth for me. I don't know, anything you want to add about that, Anna Lee?
I think like when you responded to the poems, I think you really got it right. You know, you took my phrases. We talked about like the ideas. Maybe I gave you a couple more ideas, but as far as like my mom's poetry responding to my paintings, I think she really nailed what I was trying to do. So I think that's why it works so well together as well.
Yeah, and it was really fascinating. I really love doing ekphrastic work because you're not trying to summarize the work, you're trying to step into it, right? And to feel that interaction with it. Okay, so I'm not going to read this one because it's pretty long, but here is one of the pieces from the American Visionary Art Museum. And you can see on the surface, it kind of looks like this innocent little girl, and this happens to be the artist's daughter, Margaret Munz-Losch. And we were particularly interested in her pieces. But when you look more closely, and I'm going to come back to this page, you can see that she's entirely made up of bees. So there's a sense of danger and, you know, Anna Lee was going through a lot of health issues at the time. I was going through some health issues. So there's a sense of on the surface, everything kind of looks normal or innocent or safe, but underneath there's stuff stirring around. And another one, the little girl is entirely made up of maggots. So here's this first piece that I thought kind of captured some of what we were dealing with in some of Anna Lee's work as well. At the American Visionary Art Museum, White Rabbit. Eyes the pale blue-gray of cornflower, the naked girl buzzes with bees, is bees, nipples, elbows, neck, chest, swarming forehead, insect fingers grasping the starkly white, pink-eyed magician's rabbit of miracles, paired with the good luck clovers sprouting from her dirt blonde bun, crawling with workaholic drones loyal to scent and perceived innocence.
Got it.
My mother's skin tingles with hers, is hers, yours, tiny stings that cling to the most vulnerable flesh left to love, hovering sweetly, deceptively over the decaying, the dead. Okay. And then here are some of the other pieces from the American Visionary Art Museum. So this guy over here is Poe with his black cat, and you can see his portrait up there and his bottle of, I don't know, cognac or something. He is entirely made up of peeps, those Easter marshmallow treats. So there were all kinds of things in this museum. This piece called The Gateway is really huge. But to me, it reminded me of being inside somebody's heart. And I've written a lot about my father's unsuccessful heart transplant. So I made some connections to that. Greg Mort's work I really love. He actually has pieces in the White House, in the Smithsonian, and he writes a lot about things that have to do with space and astronomy. Karen Elias is who I collaborate with still quite a bit, and she just has some amazing work. And then Ingo Swann, who was also a psychic, and here's another one of Margaret's pieces. And this little girl is entirely made up of maggots when you get close enough to see. So again, it's like unsettling, right? Okay. Okay, Anna Lee, do you want to read the description?
Sure. A more minimalistic work, this painting explores the beauty of the female body without material or societal influences. There. It also raises questions and begins an intimate conversation with the viewer on what we truly need to be happy.
Okay, so we're going to kind of read this together. Anna Lee is going to read the italics part, just so you can kind of get that sense of rejecting society's position. bare minimum. Beneath whitewash, sternum, neck, skull, the fog of face, the residue of dream, released to scream or freedom.
No comment.
Unclothed of skin and woven expectations, bone stacks on bone, exposes the core of caustic commentary. What we see is beneath the said,
No comment.
is not the bared, but the unbearable
Here I am.
of society's design on us,
I am
breathing bare.
here.
And you can see that kind of sense of statement, and, you know, kind of asserting yourself, to be yourself and not kind of give in to societal expectations, which I thought was really intriguing. Now, when I first looked at this, and I don't know if you can see it, I saw a skull here, and I kind of saw it screaming. And so that's, and Anna Lee, why don't you talk about your intentions or what happened with
This
this
is
thing?
kind of an interesting piece. Most of my pieces have kind of cool stories behind them. But this one in particular, I was living in North Philly at the time. And at my apartment, we had a deck at the top. So I would paint up at the deck. You can see all the buildings and it was a great view. So I was working on this painting. I started the head and then the body. And then I was like, it was too cliche, too unoriginal. So I wanted to do something a little trippy. I kind of went between maybe like adding another eye, you know, maybe this girl has like strange hair, maybe she, you know, I kind of went back and forth and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to leave the head off. So I spray painted over it, but you can still kind of see the outline of it. And then I had it up on my deck. I got a call from my roommate, freaking out and saying, oh my goodness, I accidentally spilled some paint on your painting. What do I do? And I said, it's okay, don't worry. I'll take a look at it when I come home. And when I came home and I looked at it, all these little brown dots that you're seeing is from the paint that's spilled. And I looked at my room and I said, I like it better now. Thank you. And so sometimes in art, sometimes accidents happen and they can be bad, and sometimes they can be good. So it's kind of a cool story about this piece.
I love that story. Okay, and here's a piece that's also pretty large, I guess. And oh, there's Marianne. I'm gonna let her in. And again, this is another piece that correct me if I'm wrong, Anna Lee, but kind of questions what society thinks about art. Do they take it seriously? Do they think it's a legitimate career? Is that correct?
Yes. Do you want me to talk a little bit about this?
Yeah, please.
So this piece actually started off as just clouds. And a couple years ago, I watched two girls who are now 8 and 7. And I just helped them do art stuff with them. One time they came over with their mother, and one of the girls looked at this painting and said, Miss Anna Lee, that looks like smoke. And I said, oh, really? You think that that's smoke? I said, I put them as clouds, but I really like your idea that it could be smoke too. And so what I did is I added a train in the background. And I thought that was really interesting observation by, I believe she was like 7 or 6 at the time, because what happens when you're a child is you can look at something and you can have all this imagination, but when we get older, we start to like lose that a little bit. So that's one of the things I learned in art is that, you know, child's imaginations, that's what we want to have, you know, that's what they have the most imagination there is. They can look at a picture and they can think of 1 million different things for that. So a lot of inspiration I also take from children too, and their comments. So just a little bit about that.
So this is illegitimately trained. The cotton balls are real and the paint. The questions are real and the light. The small and far away loom as large as the not now, but once real yellow, orange, blue sunset or sunrise, populated by not clouds, but smoke, not puffs, but cotton. The cotton balls are real and the lines travel someplace across landscapes you've been to in real time or before time or now. Never mind.
I don't want to leave.
Bright
because-
lines of light shine insight. Pool the eyes with swirl that obstructs the tracks traveled once upon a time to someplace not dream, right? At least you'll agree the cotton balls are real and the paint, the questions are real and the light. And somehow you and not you opened the view to time moving while you and not you waited on a small painted chair and agreed the cotton balls are real and the paint. The lines line up to something purchased at Rite Aid and Lowe's before the artist pulled out of an open bag, pried out of a sealed can, a train, the tracks, a sky, smoke, you. Really, come see. The cotton balls are real and the paint. And another interesting story about this, this was accepted at, oh gosh, I'm just blanking on the Shantae Arts Art and Literary Journal. Christine, our publisher, didn't know that we were related because I publish under Maddox. I have two names, Maddox Hafer and Maddox. And so she wanted to know if I could maybe get a hold of the artist and see if we could include the painting. And I said, yeah, I think I can contact her. I have a little bit of an in with her, so that worked out very well. And so here are some close-ups of that. And you can see how, you know, again, there are some words kind of woven throughout. There was a little chair in there. This one, Anna Lee did before the pandemic, but it reminded me of being in the pandemic when people would kind of converse from their balconies. You know, you would bring out your flowers, you'd say hello to people, particularly in New York City, but also in Philly, I think. So this is a pantoum where again, you're repeating the second and fourth line is the first and third of the next stanza. Sun on South Street, small quiet room, big busy city. The sun finds us anyway, camaraderie of light and dark isolation. We look out windows at each other. In this way, the sun finds us, brightened by the waves of strangers as we look out windows at each other, connected by warmth and light. So bright these lives of strangers, and the outside flowers brought in, connecting us to warmth and light. See how they cheer us. Mornings we bring our flowers out to balconies, display them for each other. See how this cheers us, camaraderie and light amidst dark isolation. On balconies, we display flowers for each other's. In this way, the neighborly sun finds us, camaraderie of light and dark isolation, small quiet room, big busy city. And I didn't know if you wanted to add anything, Anna Lee?
I think the poem pretty much sums up what I was trying to say with this piece. I made this piece when I lived in Philadelphia at the time, and a lot of what I do is when I'm an artist is I isolate myself to get a work done. And so when I was making this painting, I was thinking about how, you know, I'm in this huge city, but yet I feel so alone, not in a bad way, but in my thoughts making artwork. I feel like I'm the only person in this city. So that's kind of what this piece is about.
And then here's some close-ups. And you again, you can see the different perspective kind of switches, you know, with the small town down there. And why don't you talk about this painting before I read it?
So this was a painting that I made before I lived in Philly. I lived in a suburb of Philly, Pottstown, which is, I would say, maybe 45 minutes from Philadelphia. But I lived in a little like studio apartment, and from my view, I could look down and kind of see like other apartment buildings. And so in my mind, I abstracted that. Now at the top half of the painting, you'll see kind of an exterior landscape, which is what I saw from my window. And then from the bottom half, you're going to see the interior of my apartment. So you'll see like a chair, there's bananas, an apple there. A lot of my work, I like to confuse the viewer and make them unsure of where they are, whether they're in a different space, a different time. Where are you?
So this is all about, I kind of took, the idea of different perspectives, making choices again. This comes through a lot in the different paintings. King Street. In, out, up, down, any city, town, tacked to the frame of a window with someone not you looking out, looking in. What is the point of view? The apple on the tree or the counter, the apple of my eye slicing the view into juicy sections while the downtown tilts this way or that, and the who sees it all devours or nibbles between lines that could be sun or paint or poem or street or icicle melting or mind meandering here or there, now or now. And I'm not going to read this piece, but because it's quite long, but the painting is huge. And I don't know if you saw at the very first page where we have Anna Lee's portrait over the cover. She's standing in front of this painting. But you can see some of the images of the chess piece. She had kind of a Alice in Wonderland. This is where she did give me some helpful advice on some additional things that she was working with. So I don't know if you want to talk about this painting at all, Anna Lee.
Sure. So to give you guys a reference, this painting is done on a drop cloth that I would say is roughly 12 feet. It's huge. It's like the size of my wall. The way I started out painting this was when I lived in Philly, there was a downstairs neighbor who had a big blank wall that was also a friend of ours. And he asked me, he was like, I don't know what to do with this wall. There's nothing on it. And he was like, what if I bought a drop cloth? Would you like to paint on? And I was like, absolutely. So this was the first time that I ever did something like mural size. And it was different, but it wasn't as hard as I thought it would be. This piece is really it's really a contradiction. I made a giant piece of artwork that's very colorful, and you can't avoid looking at it. But yet in the painting, I have phrases like don't look up, don't look down, don't look where, there. So it's really contradicting. It's telling you, it's begging you to look at it, but at the same time, it's telling you not to look.
Mm-hmm. And then here's some close-ups. So there's just always another layer and another layer and another layer. It's kind of like artistic, where's Waldo? Okay. Why don't you read that artist statement here, and then we'll read the poem together.
Sure. The word swarm has such negative connotations. The first hits on the internet reference a swarm of 55 earthquakes striking off the Oregon coast and a step-by-step guide on how to rid your area from swarms of insects. However, what happens when the word swarm is viewed in a more positive light?
So there's several pieces that talk about the meaning of words, the connotations of words, how you can interpret them differently. So we're going to read this together. Annalie's got 2 italic words to read. Naming creation, which I think it applies to art and writing the same. From her mouth, letters transform.
Swarm.
Her pursed lips release a kiss of them, explosion of light and swirl that redefines the way words slip from cortex to cochlea. Their circular dip into dance and sense twirls at dusk, border of night, day, transformed in the swarm. Her letters' pursed lips beget articulation, reverse total eclipse until inspiration's bright flash of lights swirls, redefines the way words slip, sparks synapse after synapse after synapse, while hand, brain, memory, insight transform the letters to
Warms.
Her pursed lips release painting and poem. No planned script can recreate such abundance of bright swirl that redefines the way words slip into meaning. Transmission of firefly blips ignite the mind's sky with inspiration. To write letters transformed by swarming, purse lips, and swirl vision. Like this, redefined words slip from her mouth. And this is kind of a variation on a villanelle a little bit. Okay. This one's a little more self-evident, I guess. But also playing with the meanings of different words. So what are all the things that you think of when you think of a light? You know, it can represent all these different things that she mentions in her statement: intelligence, faith, darkness, and light. And then a villanelle here. Switch. Switch is a verb that lights the brain, gets the action done, or a noun, off, on, dark, bright, with what it knows. Verb recites each epiphany brilliantly. Never outdone, switch is a verb that lights location, flicks on insights to illuminate in exteriors, the lone lamp of noun, on, off, dark, bright. It shines meaning, switches day and night, distinction cited. It recognizes its own and acts. Switch is a verb that lights the foggy brain. Its decisions brighten dim rooms with up, not down. As noun, the off-on word knows dark, bright, but wait while verb chooses what's right, shrouded in shadow. Shrouded in shadow, noun's tone is passive. Switch, best is verb that lights up, noun, off into on, dark into bright. Anything, Anna Lee? Or?
This, I could tell you a little bit about my process with this one. I use spray paint with this, and then kind of more of the like fluid marks you see. I actually filled up a ketchup bottle with paint and drew on the painting. So that's where you're getting all those like kind of squiggly marks on the outside. So I like to use a lot of juxtaposition in the artwork because I think it makes it more interesting. So I'll use different materials, different paints, different textures and whatnot.
Well, I didn't know that. That's an interesting.
Yeah.
I'm learning a lot here too. Oh, I love the story behind this one. So this is, you know, a really abstract piece, as you can see, and it's kind of like that's whirlpool, felt like it was sucking me in. And you can see, if you look closely, there's all these little E's around the edge. But Anna Lee, why don't you tell the story about this one, then I'll read the poem.
So this is probably my favorite story about my pieces. A lot of it is kind of like a journey about my life. So I talked earlier about like being in Philly, and then I lived in Pottstown. This painting I did when, I believe when I was in college, and I was working part-time at a daycare. The daycare I was working at was in a very ritzy area. It was very, it was a very expensive daycare. They had like everything that you could possibly dream of. But the structure that they had was very regimented. It was kind of like they were teaching 3-year-olds pretending that they were middle schoolers or high schoolers, as the curriculum was very strict. And one of the things that I was asked to do was help a small group of kids practice the letter E for 5 or 10 minutes. So I did that. And then when they were finished, one of the girls, who must have been maybe 4 or 5, turned to me and said, and asked me how to spell narwhal. And I was like, kind of shocked, because first of all, she knew what narwhal was. And second of all, the fact that she's asking how to spell something, I thought was really incredible. So I told her how to spell it. And another person overheard me, another staff member overheard me and reprimanded me, both me and the child, for that question. And so I made this painting because it's really about education and how we can't just stick people in a box. We need to be asking questions, and we need to not tear down other people for questions, especially questions that are very insightful. So that's what this painting is about. It's all about how I was supposed to do something. I did my job. Somebody asked me a question. I answered it. And we were reprimanded, and the child was reprimanded for asking something very creative and very smart that they should have been praised for. So that's what this painting's about.
So here we have the letter E. Don't distract me with questions, those extraneous detours that topple learning. E and only E is today's lesson. The enemy of schedules is curiosity, omissions necessary for well-paced delivery. We yearn for no distractions. Don't ask me questions, time-wasting, silly digressions of how and why. Pay attention. Our concern is E and only E. Today's lesson is letter 5. Your inquisitive obsessions are enemies of order. Don't ruin class by distracting me with questions. Creativity's the one transgression I won't allow. Sit still, don't squirm. E and only E is today's lesson. Up next, the letter F, natural progression of learning. Quiet, it's not your turn to talk. Don't distract me with questions. E and only E is today's lesson. I think that's my favorite one to read. That's a lot of fun. And then here's some close-ups. And this is the last one I'm going to read, and then I'm going to show you another image. Anna Lee did a panel on AM and PM, and the idea of just slowing us down and kind of having us. Terry, did you want to talk about, did you know you were going to do 2 when you started, Anna Lee, or?
You know what? I don't think so. I'm trying to remember which one I did first, but I'm thinking I think I did AM first. And I painted it, and I was trying to come up with the title for it. And I was really, it really kind of dawned on me, like, this looks like the morning. This looks like, you know, like the start of the day. And I was like, it would be really cool if I made one that was PM as well, and did a diptych with them. So that's kind of where that idea came from.
Anti-meridium, post-meridium. Between anti and post, the self's permission slip to tarry. Invite the sun in for tea and toast, spread with lazy, while the mind wanders between in and out, mirroring the weather of wonder. Stay a while and admire. And then we just end with another poem that using that armchair. And this one really talks about, this is another one of my favorite pieces, talks about how it seems paradoxical, but to really use your imagination and be productive and go places, you have to also learn to relax. And they kind of go hand in hand. To me, this looked like going on like a roller coaster, you know, at the top of the roller coaster here. Anything you want to add, Anna Lee?
This painting, it's a little bit about me too, because I think sometimes we all get caught up in, like, you know, our own lives and what we're doing, that sometimes we forget to take time for ourselves. We forget to, like, sit down and read or draw or just enjoy life and step away from all that craziness for a little bit. So that you'll see a lot of armchairs in my work. I really think armchairs symbolize, like, thought and thinking and are very personal. So that's a little bit about this painting. It's just taking time for yourself. Which is something I need to do more. I'm quite a workaholic. So I think I just have some close-ups of this. And then that is that. I'm sorry we went over time. We were talking and we went a little long, but
I hate to tell you, but we would have sat here for a lot longer, and I know I'm in company with that one. If everybody wants to unmute, and boy, the comments, the comment section's on fire, as you can imagine. And I just want to first off say, wow, and thank you so much. The stories behind all of that was amazing. And Marjorie, I already knew you were a fabulous ekphrastic poem writer, but there's a whole nother level to this that we're going to dive into. Yes, and people are, you know, just saying wonderful presentation. That was great. If anybody has a question, feel free to, you know, jump in and ask it. I know I've got a few. One of my questions, Marjorie, because this is an art form that, you know, a poetry form you've worked in before, what did you find the difference was with working with Anna Lee, your daughter?
Well, she's my daughter.
Yeah.
You know, and it was just, I think it was really nice to kind of be working artist to artist, you know, so it was a different dynamic, and just to give that give and take. And when I was working with Karen, we did a lot of collaboration where sometimes I'd write the poem first, and then sometimes she would take the photograph first. And so we went back and forth and kind of responding to each other's. And this one, all the paintings were already done, but because some of them were abstract, that communication was also facilitated with those artist statements and then talking over the phone and things like that. So, but it just really helped me kind of dive in to find out what she was thinking. You know, it's just a different way to communicate.
Yeah, I was saying, you said at one point, oh, that's new. There was an element to the story that Anna Lee was saying. You said, oh, that was a new piece of information. And I also wondered, Anna Lee, for you, you know, how was it to have your mom write these poems in response? How was that process for you? Had you done anything like this before?
I haven't. So I made this whole series of work and I started a website, and that's kind of what got the conversation going, because my mom showed my website to her students and her students had written some poems about that. And then we were kind of like, why don't we just do this together? And it was really cool. The thing that surprised me was that my mom really got the gist of what I was trying to say in my painting. There were like a couple of things like she asked me and then I talked to her about to give her more of an understanding. But as far as like the concept goes with the poems, I think she really nailed it. So that makes me really happy that someone was able to convey that in words, what I was, you know, trying to paint.
That's beautiful. That is awesome. And the other thing I want to say, Marjorie, I was so taken by the whole experience that at first I didn't, you know, hear, one of the things that I love about your work was, you know, the musicality. And suddenly at some point, my brain turned on and go, it's all there. I just was taken by the whole interaction that I was missing some of the spots that I consider classic Marjorie, with just beautiful, lush language. And I noticed that someone else said that, you know, as well, it's just delicious language. Yeah, Karen, you said you want to say something, because I could tell you were jumping out of your seat.
I'm coming unglued. This is just like the best thing ever. It is so exciting to see the work, hear the poems, hear you both talking about the works and just the whole relationship. I cannot imagine a better art. But I don't know. I don't even have any words. I'm just going to shut up. But thank y'all so much. This is amazing. It's amazing.
And just to let everybody know, I have re-put in the chat section where you can order the copies, and also for a signed copy, you know, please feel free to reach out directly to Marjorie. I put up the email address so that you can get a signed copy should you want one. Did I miss?
I was just going to say, Anna Lee, I don't know if you can see. Claire, can you wave your hand? Claire is one of the people who wrote one of our blurbs.
Oh,
Great. Thank you. We definitely enjoy those.
Just definitely an amazing artist and author.
It's a wonderful book
Thank
and
you.
wonderful project.
Thank you.
awesome. Regina, I saw you had your hand up.
Yes. Hi, this was I just I don't even know. I don't have the words, and that's odd because I usually have words. But this is such a, first of all, such a wonderful presentation. Secondly, there's this whole, I think, movement. People are kind of gravitating towards wanting to get more knowledge about how to collaborate with artists and produce ekphrastic work. And one of the things that we've been talking about in the Poetry Society is actually having someone come and talk about that process. Have you done a lot of these readings and whatnot together? Are you open to doing?
Oh yeah, I'm open. Are you open, Anna Lee?
Absolutely.
We have just had a couple. We have a couple more lined up, but one thing that was really fun is the first one was, this came out on Mother's Day. I should have said that at the beginning. So we had an art exhibit, and then half a block away is the bookstore in town. So we did kind of a joint art exhibit and book signing. So that really felt like a big celebration and was a lot of fun. And then in September, we're going to the Finger Lakes and doing a similar kind of thing with George Guida. I don't know if any of you know the poet, George. He's having us at his like coffee house, and they have an art gallery there. And then we've got another one coming up next Mother's Day in Wellsboro. There's a really nice art center there. But then we have a couple of Zoom readings coming as well. And it's nice to have the Zoom option
Right.
since we aren't we're not that far. We're about 3 hours away from each other, but
Well, I'm going to reach out to you. I don't wanna
Okay.
screw this up.
Yeah, I was just thinking, Regina, that would be an awesome idea.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
I have my email in that if you it's in the chat someplace.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I just added it, I will add it again. And Maddox H at Commonwealth u.edu, but I'll put it on again.
Yeah, my university merged with 2 others, so I keep getting new email addresses.
And Claire just said, if you're interested in exploring ekphrastic work, check out the ekphrastic review, which is online.
Oh, and that's where my students ended up publishing their poems on Anna Lee's artwork. So that was really nice that she was open to looking at their poems and publishing them. So we were excited about that.
I just added my website to the group chat if anyone wants to
Oh,
check.
thank you. That's awesome. We definitely need that.
I actually peeped at your website already.
Oh, great. That's what I like to hear.
You can see the top of that naming creation, that swirl painting blocking the window, blocking the light from the window.
Oh, yeah. I had to be a little creative here.
Oh, wow. Does anybody have any questions? I don't see any hands up, and I tried to check. Jump in, Sandra.
Yeah, I think they're wonderful. They just have a wonderful freedom and imagination, and they just take our minds to new places and delightful places, and it's a great pairing. It's so lovely, so wonderful, beyond lovely. It's delightful, and I'm wondering how you decide or don't you decide? Does the poem decide, Marjorie, if you're going to use form on certain ones or free verse, or you find that out as you're going along, which would be more appropriate? How do you think about that?
Yeah, I did use a lot more form in this book than I have in others, partly because I've been writing a lot in form anyways, but partly because I was weaving through those italicized statements from her artist statements, or or the words that were actually in the painting. A lot of times I wove those through, and that just seemed to lend itself to a sense of repetition. And I think the paintings too, there's that sense of, you keep looking and looking and looking, and you're finding more and more and more. And that layered effect, I think, came through with some of the repetition.
Okay.
Good question, Sandra. And I do think, Marjorie, I did want to add, once you would blow up and go in, deeper into the painting, it was helped us because we're not right physically in front of the work. And so I really deeply appreciated the complexity that Anna Lee has within her work when you did those close-ups. So thank you for that. That presentation, you just did so perfectly. And I deeply appreciate, not only the effort it took to create this book, but also, the lovely work that you put into really treating us to such a great presentation. Just thank you.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Our pleasure.
Awesome.
Can you say one thing?
Sure, jump in.
The poem and the accompanying the artwork for the poem that I can't remember right off the top of my head, that needs to go into some college educational curriculum, because that is a thing. I've worked in a space like that.
It is.
Yeah.
That would be a great idea.
I just want to say.
And the letter E, I could tell you had fun reading it, Marjorie, having, you know, hosted you for several readings and just knowing you, I love it too. There was just something so compelling. That's awesome. Okay, I think my sense is that we will go to open mic, but I wanted to make sure that if you did not have a chance to sign up, feel free to send me a quick message. And let's take a moment to thank Marjorie and Anna Lee once again for creating this book together.
Thank you.
I have Joan for starting us off. So Joan, if you want to just jump on in, I'm looking for you, but I don't, oh, there you are. I see you now.
Here I am. Yes.
Perfect.
Simple division. At the start, I have a stepson, age 12 to my 28, raised since he was 2 by his single father. Would a more elegant solution have been birthing him myself? The boy's mother was gone, address unknown, until she surfaced when he was 16. At 31, I add a daughter. At 35, a son. Take 2 parents, one inattentive, divide by 3, add the factor of a stepson's expanding needs, his stalled adulthood. Back up. The father is not exactly inattentive. His attention is divided. The primacy of work split by the absolute value of family equals distraction. From the outset of our operation, I tacitly agreed to an unequal share of everything domestic. 1.5 parents, one stretched thin, divided by 3, add a complication. Our daughter's born with something bad and rare. She's often hospitalized. Add so many decades that I have white hair and the children are adults. We arrive at the results of all this splitting. 10 years ago, I left the marriage, but my love for the now middle-aged boy remains. Recently, he's raging in a hateful manner, damning all. The elusive mother, now dead, rises in his estimation. My stepson is burdened by an extensive, imaginative tally of childhood deprivations. True, his half-brother and half-sister had much more: 2 parents, 2 incomes, love without limits. From the start, my project was inclusion, but the facts are bare. I can never be his real mother or give him what he lacks. I cannot solve the past. Mothers who fear not having enough love for more children are advised, love multiplies. For stepmothers and stepchildren, love is a division problem.
Oh, Joan, thank you. Holy smokes. Susanna, I am coming your way. Let's see.
So thank you, Malika. This was a great presentation tonight. Very, yeah, I love the collaborations. So I have a new book coming out officially in 5 days, and it's called If This Isn't Love. And actually I'll be here on December 10th with a friend of mine, Jerry Johnson, who also has a new book, and we'll be reading then. So here's a poem from that collection, which is organized around the telenovela and ideas of love that you find in soap operas and that you may or may not find in real life. And this is called A History of Commitment, by which I mean unpredictable. I was squirrely in my 20s, wore peacock feather earrings, Mother Earth skirts, tried to save money for harder times, though usually I was broke. People around me snorted coke, love, veered off before impact, a twitch away from being a traffic accident. What happened in my 30s, I hammered together lopsided bookshelves, stuck them in my mostly unused kitchen, declared my cockroach farm home, beat with a broom the man who tried to crawl through the window until he gave up. Then I installed metal bars. The front door was metal too. This was New York. I unlocked it for you when the man who slept in the hallway started shooting the ceiling lights.
Ooh,
A couple of love poems in the book, and this is one of them, sort of.
Susanna, fabulous, and a twitch away from being a traffic accident. I love it. I don't know, I might make a t-shirt out of that. Thank you, Susanna, so much. Jim, I'm headed your way. Let me see if I can find you. There we go.
Okay, I want to try something real quick. There. That is a photo that I took, which is also the cover of my third poetry book called Leave a Light On. I love messing with poetry to make it look like art because I can't paint worth a darn, but I can use a camera. So here I am. After 41 years as a nurse, I have a ton of healthcare related poems, and I'm going to share a very recent one with you that was prompted by a discussion in a work group. It's intentionally childlike. We were talking about hepatitis and how people misinterpret things that are said. The title of this is Happy Titus. Mommy is a doctor, Daddy is a nurse. They teach me all about disease by rhyming things in silly verse. So listen to me, please. I know about the hepatitis, types A and B and C, caused by little things that bite us if we aren't as careful as can be. A gets in your body when you don't wash after wiping, and you rush to supper then so mommy won't start griping. B type comes from stuff like blood and things I can't explain too well, but I know for sure it's nothing good. Daddy says it makes you sick as. Last is C, which stands for chronic, caught by doing naughty things like too much gin and tonic or something they call flings. There's parts in there I don't quite get, but mommy says I need not worry. I got all my shots, so you can bet I'm not in such a hurry. Night, night, hepatitis. And that's it.
Malika, you are muted. Are you still with us?
Yeah, I was having trouble unmuting. So sorry. I was saying fabulous job, Jim, and my computer went completely dead. Wow. Donna, I'm coming to you, and let's hope I can operate this. I'm gonna not unmute myself. There we go.
Okay. This poem is called Shatter House Breakfast. Thorazine kicked me in the head with a jolt of black coffee, 2 eggs over easy, dry toast, and the daily grin of a cantaloupe slice. I remember that breakfast in the psych ward, where one morning, under my spoon, on a white paper napkin, creased like a thank you note, was a message stamped out loud in Swiss blue, St. Francis Hospital. Alive again and lucid, I looked around. The angels and demons left the cafeteria, and the lady with her jaw moving side to side like a saw must not have taken her cogentin. Everyone wore slippers. Discharged to home, now I live in ordinary time. Clip coupons, occasionally go barefoot. No longer afraid to drive, I attend church and PTA, buy groceries, and forget locked doors and visitations until I see in the store, on special this week, cantaloupes piled high in a wooden crate.
Ooh, Donna. Thank you. Yeah, the daily grin of a cantaloupe, that's gonna stick with me. Once again, our open mics. Regina, I'm coming to your way. We got you.
Good evening, everybody. If you know me, you know I'm a response writer. And just to give you a little context, this poem just kind of emerged in response to the Alabama brawl on the dock. And there's been a lot of social media shenanigans going on about what that is and what that meant. But it actually took me back to my mother, who I lost in June, but she's all right. She's better than she's been in a long time. This poem is entitled Waterproofed. Sterling Brown from Strong Men, you sang, "Walk together, children, don't you get weary. The strong men keep a coming on. The strong men get stronger." My mama was insistent. She wanted her children to swim, something about her not learning how in her youth. Maybe the not learning had something to do with little access, little brown children not being allowed in pools, public or private, in the Jim Crow South, where and when she grew up, or maybe it had something to do with having to accomplish what had to be done to carve out a life worth living for herself and her family, or maybe, just maybe, there was a fear etched into collective memory, a lingering fear that the water often took in, but did not always bear up live bodies. Those original memories having been collected upon the sorrowful witness of our enslaved ancestral kinsmen trafficked on boats, so distraught by the horrors already begun and the others sure to come, that they leapt from the ships into the sea. Whatever the reason, she determined that we would be waterproofed, my sisters and I. She even took lessons herself in adulthood, although she claimed there was a critical period for learning how to do it well. So we swam summer after summer, even participating in the Parks and Rec swim team. And when we left the fold, married and had children, she insisted on paying for their lessons and would attend those lessons whenever she could. Mama declared that it was one of the most important skills to have. And while I wondered about the obsession, I never questioned it. I loved the water, but for her, being able to conquer any fears and not be pulled under was vital. I thought about this yesterday as I witnessed a young brother in Montgomery, Alabama, leap into the murky river water, swim towards the fray, focus on the danger, and not be consumed. A beautiful movement of love to help his people. My mother marched in the movement. In her lifetime, Mama listened to and breathed the winds of change, crossed broken earth, spoke fire, and equipped her charges to glide through water, a necessary movement. Yesterday, something moved in me, moved in others. Keep moving.
Nina, that is amazing and gorgeous. Yep. Oh, very creative. Yep, not be pulled under. Christy, I'm coming to you, and your mama
Okay.
would love that poem, I'm sure of it. Here you are.
Okay. So since I'm doing the swim on Saturday, and I officially swam the mile once last week, I'm going to do my diving board poem tonight. How I conquered the diving board at 8 years old. I couldn't jump, but I could be bold. Daddy's forward swing launched me into the space between. Hanging air witnessed my stomach flip and relish a backbone's first kiss. Head tilted down, I sought knowing from limbs never yet to unify. Instinct reclaimed a fetal position. A yellow ski belt matched the curve of my torso. Its blue buckle hid my navel. I touched it, searched for tether, felt ankle weights offer stability. Water swallowed me, gifted domain, reshaped my body. A gnarled sapling rippled and righted itself. Arms and legs tilled their own path towards sun. At the ladder before daddy could greet me, giggled shrieks proclaimed, we gotta do that again.
Yeah, Christy. I'm so excited for you too. And could you just say something about what you're doing, just people that may not know?
I am swimming a mile in open water across Lake Gaston with 5 other disabled athletes and able-bodied partners, and I'm doing it to raise money for an accessible van for myself because mine is 17 years old and I don't want it to die before I have another plan in place. So rather than just asking for money and being boring, I decided to do something productive. And since I started in the water young, I thought at this age and a new birthday, I should try it again.
Yay. Maybe you could put in there also if people wanted to see more about that. in the
Okay,
chat
I
section.
will.
Thank
Sure.
you. Karen, I'm coming to you. You're our final reader for open mic. There you are.
Oh, there I am. Okay, well, I'm going to plug the Poetry Postcard Festival. I just finished my 31 postcards that I made and wrote poems to. So much fun, you guys. It happens every year in July. Google it and do it. It's so much fun. Just writing, getting out of your head and writing short, spontaneous poems on postcards, like not my usual process. So anyway, and I've just been having so much fun making them. I'm just going to show you one. Anyway, it was a dictionary page that had it was for Beret and it had the guy's face on it. And then I drew his body and the flowers around him. So anyway, it's a lot of fun. So here's one of those poems. Fan mail for Christopher in Florida. Despite the very real possibility that I will bring my face close to yours and allow you to lift my hair from my neck, or that I will bring my face even closer to yours and sing a song into you, or that I may, in fact, do neither of these things, I am surely deeply in love with you, with the hum of you, with how you move me to appreciate how you move. How you move, my dear oscillating fan.
Karen, I adore
you. You gotta love an oscillating
31.
fan.
Trust me, I do. I have one that is on,
I
hot
am
flashes.
Yeah, I'm in love with my fans this year.
I understand you. I just want to take a moment again to say y'all are amazing. Anna Lee and Marjorie, just fabulous. You guys have created such a special night for us, and everybody that was here and everybody that read for open mic. Thank you again for being awesome company and for forgiving my technical difficulties. I appreciate it. Be well, and I hope to see you again on a Thursday.
Like it.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. So fabulous.
Thank you.
Buy the book. Buy the book.
Yep. And
Yeah.
then visit Anna Lee's website. Thanks,
Yes.
guys. And we get Susanna real soon. We'll be celebrating together. I cannot wait. Bye, guys.